Application 621, we don't need to do anything on. Application 1021 is a request to withdraw without prejudice. Would someone make that a motion for that?
I'll make them. I'll second.
Okay, so Lisa makes the motion, Michael seconds. All those in favor to allow 1021 to withdraw without prejudice, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So moving on to new business. Oh, there I am.
I'll second.
You go to the stars.
Okay, so new business. The first application up is 13-21, Gordon C. Russell, 3 School Street, and representing is Arthur Reed. Arthur, welcome back.
Yes.
Thank you.
Nice to
It's
see
my
you.
great pleasure to be here before you today, and my first visit to this room in more than a year, and my first appearance before any board in person over that period of time. And it's exceptionally good to be back with all of you. This is a situation in which we have a house at 3 School Street, belongs to my client, Gordon Russell, who is here with me today, along with our design consultant, Rob Newman. And what we're looking at is a 1760 house, built in 1760, antique house, which has an existing elevation of the ridge height above mean grade, as calculated under the zoning bylaw, of 30.33 feet. So it exceeds by about 4 inches the allowed elevation above grade, as calculated under the bylaw, which, as you all know, measures from outside the perimeter of the house to the highest point on the house. And there's only one highest point on the house, which is the highest roof ridge. So at the present time, the existing height is 30.33. And one of the elevations exceeds 32 feet, which is the maximum for any one side. Specifically, the north ridge is 32.39. The north elevation to the ridge is 32.39 feet. Again, 0.39 feet, or between 3 and 4 inches above what's permitted under the bylaw. Now, what we're proposing to do involves removing an addition that was erected in the 1980s to the house at the rear and replacing it with a new addition, which has been approved by the HDC. And because of the change in the footprint of the house, and the fact that the lot slopes off toward the north, which is what is creating the existing excess over the 32 feet on the north side, by extending out in that direction, the result is that technically, even though the ridge height of the house is not changing in absolute terms, the ridge height remains the same above sea level, above any datum related to sea level. It's only with regard to the calculation under the bylaw that there's a change. And what we're proposing to do involves an addition that is less than 30 feet high above grade and meets all zoning setbacks. So therefore, we're before the board because the existing structure is non-conforming as to overall height and as to the height on the north elevation. And we are now asking for the permission to make these changes, which will not result in any change in the absolute height of the structure. Now, as calculated, because of the slope downhill, the result is that, as Jeff Blackwell has worked out the calculations, the overall height calculation will reduce by 0.04 foot. In other words, half an inch. The north elevation will increase by 0.2 foot. In other words, about 2.5 inches. And therefore, we're suggesting that we would meet all logical standards for the approval of a special permit for this change. We technically need the special permit because we are making the change and technically increasing the nonconformity on the north elevation, even though, once again, there is no change in the height of the point of the structure, which is at issue in determining the height above grade. When the bylaw was written as it is to calculate height the way we do, I think an awful lot of unusual results have come from it. And this is certainly one of them, where without increasing the overall height, we're determined to have increased the absolute height, the height over zoning, even though the absolute height is not changed. So with that, as I say, Mr. Russell and Rob Newman are here with me to help answer any questions. That's what we're proposing.
If it's literally 2 inches, why don't you just eliminate that 2 inches?
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Sorry. If it's 2 inches that you're at, that's in play, why not just eliminate those 2 inches and then you wouldn't be here, correct?
The only way we could do that would be to change the grade, which doesn't frankly do accomplish anything for anybody. The 2 inches wouldn't change by anything that we would do in changing the addition. The roof height, the ridge height remains the same, whatever we do. That is the ridge height from which the calculation would be made.
Okay, so the ridge height calculation is from the main portion of the building that isn't being changed.
That's right. That's not being changed.
So this is just a sort of a new calculation, if you will, of the height.
Because the footprint changes, not because the elevation. There's nothing that is being changed on this house that is higher than 30 feet. And none of the work that is being done will be done within any of the zoning setbacks.
Well, I just want to clarify that because from the north, that ridge is 32.39.
Yeah,
So that is over, it's raising, the north ridge is raising to,
So I have a
yeah, so I just wanted to,
No.
I wanted that to get
it's
to
the raise is from grade because you're measuring it from the grade from a different point further out because of the addition on that side of the house.
Well, and the roof
Right.
is getting closer to the ridge of the existing roof.
I'm sorry?
The roof is getting, the mass is getting wider, so the ridge is getting higher to be closer to the existing roof height.
There's no change to any portion of the house where that ridge exists.
Can
In
you,
the-
can you show us?
In the rear
then?
L, there is a change.
Hmm?
There is a change in the rear L. It's
There's a
not,
change in the rear. The rear is being replaced.
right, and the roof is going higher. I'm not saying it's
The
higher.
roof
than
is
these-
going higher than it now is, but less than 30 feet.
Well, yeah, by the zoning calculation, by the north end, it's going to be 32.39 feet.
That's right. And it goes from 0.39 to 0.59 because of the fact that with the addition coming out in that direction and with the slope going down in that direction, the calculation pushes it up by those 0.2 of a foot
Can I,
without there being any change, once again, in the elevation of the roof ridge and with that roof ridge not changing.
so to follow up on both Lisa and Ed, how far you're extending the ridge out, that L out?
We're not extending the roof ridge. We're not
Mm.
changing the roof ridge. The main ridge,
Well, you're saying it's because, so you're saying it's because of the slope. It's sloping like this. So at some point it's, 30, then it gets down here, it's 32 because there's a slope.
right,
So how much of that extension? Like what Ed's saying, like it's 2 inches, but how much of that new addition that's extending creates the overage?
Well, it's the
It's because it's
fact,
getting wider. Susan,
it's the
I
fact
believe.
that, it's coming
So it's not
further
get- it's
out
not
in that
getting any
direction.
longer, it's just
but
getting
nothing-
wider.
It's getting wider, so the roof goes up higher. I believe. So if you look at the
So It's
existing,
hard to see the numbers.
I
on
know,
the
the,
small-
the drawings are very hard to read.
Yeah.
If you bring that roof up,
Right.
then you bring it back down to that point, the roof just by virtue of the fact that it's
Right.
getting wider, it goes
So
up.
it's not,
I don't think it's
it's not
going
like-
any further this way. No,
right.
because
It's
if you
just
look at the
going,
site plan,
oh, right. So it's just this part right here that's making it.
That's making it, and that part is not
yeah,
changing.
because this
Mhm.
doesn't
Okay, I
change.
see.
Right.
But they're filling this in, so that's getting
Yeah.
wider, and that's what's
Mhm.
making the roof higher.
Okay.
Or making the calculation. come
Well,
out higher, even though
I mean,
Right, well,
that's
well,
semantics,
this
though.
section of the roof is
Right.
getting higher.
it's not changing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, look, it's
Look,
down here with
it's
the
down there.
fireplace.
Well,
Yeah,
that part
here.
is changing, but
Yeah.
not up here where.
Well, I
the
know that.
highest
That's what I was
point
saying,
is.
but this is
This
changing.
is-
Right, but
Yeah.
not going over 30 feet.
Well, it's 32.
30 feet as measured from this point, though.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
but
well below, the uh, highest point.
Well, I wouldn't say it's well below, but it's
Yeah.
below the highest
It's-
point.
it looks like it's pretty close.
It's-
here.
it's-
pretty close.
It's pretty close to touching the highest point of the
Yeah.
ridge.
I mean,
But I mean, I think it's an interesting question because it is not, the roof is, the building is not getting any taller.
That's right.
More of the building is getting taller.
can you-
Yes.
Well, the building
More
is getting
mass.
taller, but not exceeding.
Yes.
It's not exceeding 30 feet.
So Lucy, you might be able to answer, so I'm just getting back to that question. So could you not have lowered that section that's coming out where the, I guess conforms to that,
That wouldn't change the calculation.
even if you lower it?
Well, because the main ridge,
The bylaw provides that the house has only one highest point. That highest point, obviously, is the highest roof ridge.
Right.
And you take the elevation of that, and then you measure it from the point 5 or 6 feet out.
4 feet,
4
4 feet off the perimeter
Yeah,
of the
4
building.
feet off the house. And it's just a question of where the point is from which you're measuring up to that ridge, which once again has not changed in absolute terms at all, because no work is being done on that.
but, okay, so I get what you're saying in absolutes, but the bylaw is the bylaw. And
Yeah.
that's, we're a regulatory board. That's what it says. So, can you, I don't know if anybody knows this, and I don't, but what was the intent, when you said, there were like unique circumstances that came out of this being created? What, do you remember what the intent of the bylaw, what was it, why was it changed, and what was it trying to prevent?
Norman Chalaki was dealing with a piece of property back in the 1980s, in connection with which he came up with this formula. Frankly, the formula has been difficult for everybody to deal with ever since. And this is not the first time where we've had a situation in which, as I say, the elevation above sea level doesn't change, but because of the topography of the lot, the elevation above grade, as calculated in the bylaw, changes. So as a practical matter, in terms of the effect upon anyone, we'd be entitled to build up to 30 feet. We're starting with a vacant lot. We'd be entitled to build up to 30 feet anyway, as far as zoning is concerned. And obviously, we're not exceeding 30 feet on any addition, and we're not operating within any of the setbacks. So we'd be entitled to build up to 30 feet under any circumstances. In this situation, we have the fact that the historic part of the house that nobody wants to do anything with, nobody wants to change, is 4 inches above the 30 feet. So therefore, what we do on the rest of the house gets tied into that elevation. And again, that's.
But can I ask you, well, sorry, again, I was gonna say, if you're 32.39 feet, why don't you just make that 32 feet? I mean, why not get rid of this, I mean, I know it's only 4 inches, but why not get rid of it and make it conforming? Then that's completely conforming. And it would bring down the average height of the building down to 30.
You mean cut back
Cut down the height of the roof so that it's not, because it's,
That doesn't come into calculation.
well, you
those
said it
are-
was 32.39 feet, the back section of it. It was over, it's too tall,
That's-
32.
To the.
Right, so bring that ridge down to 32 feet. You could bring this ridge down.
That would change the calculation.
The only way to change it would be to bring the ridge.
I'm sorry, if you're gonna speak, you have to come to the microphone and identify yourself.
Well,
please.
no, I understand that, but you were just saying that the height of the building as seen from the north side could be lower.
That wouldn't change the calculation.
Yeah, that's what's so screwy about it.
Well, it doesn't change the calculation as the slope increases. I mean, you're
That's what I was trying to
you're
say.
taking
You would have to fill.
We would have to fill.
it's another crazy.
Which doesn't
I know, which is a
accomplish
crazy
anything.
thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The only way to do it is to.
So there's no way of designing this to make it.
Compliant.
That's
Not
the
unless
question.
you're going to start
Instead of trying to
doing
figure it out.
the roof ridge at the 1760 part of the house, which.
In-
HDC, which we obviously don't want
Well,
to
yeah,
do.
right. That's
I'd like to
different.
see that.
I mean, the other thing you could do would be to make the addition shorter, but it's not going to change the absolute ridge height. That's going to remain the same. But the addition could be lower.
Well,
but-
yeah, it could be lower because it's lower now. So it
Right.
It just wouldn't have,
Right.
it just,
But it's not going to change the absolute
No.
value of the ridge.
Like the extra 3 inches, 4 inches would still be in play, even if you lower that. Width, correct?
Right, because it would still be from the point that you're taking the calculation, 32.39 feet to the top of the higher ridge. So,
Honestly, you know, what are the standards for a special permit for granting this?
Oh, you don't need
I
that.
don't have a spot.
I think it's just no more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Right.
Right,
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Blah, blah, blah.
because it's the expansion of the pre-existing non-conforming height.
But for our reviews,
Yeah, I don't think it has any of the variance.
Right.
I just want to make sure I was. confused.
Am I
well,
correct,
it's
Susan?
pre-existing non-conforming from the 1980s, right?
Mm-mm. Oh, because
because-
that's when the bylaw was written, you mean?
No, well, no, because isn't this is not the historic part of the house. This is like an.
Yeah, but they're using the historic part of the house for their
For their- what
absolute
their-
ridge height.
They're,
That's what's the funny thing. It's new
Right.
construction, but they're using the absolute ridge of the existing house,
Mhm.
which
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
pre-existing non-conforming.
So if it
There
were,
there is commentary. from some-
yeah,
Where did you get those drawings?
they're in there somewhere. They're just really small for their.
Oh,
house.
they're
Like,
black and white.
Yeah,
Actually,
it's
mine are in
gorgeous.
color, I think.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
why I
it's
thought
the
it was
same.
different. Oh, and you
Mistakenly
printed
made.
it sideways.
You know color?
Yeah. Maybe we should just hear from the public.
If the board doesn't have any more questions, we can go to the public. Is there anyone here? Well, is the board satisfied for this
Well,
minute?
I have one quick
Okay.
question on one, it looks like there was a big giant, I don't know what the heck it was, appendage.
next to the dorm.
Yeah, what was, it? But that wasn't approved. What is this?
This sort of thing.
Oh, that,
What is
Big-
that?
Big concrete,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
which doesn't.
What page
show-
is that on?
What
The
page is,
pages aren't numbered.
it's 7 of their.
Can I just see, it? Can I borrow it?
Yeah, let me see.
Oh, this right here?
Oh.
Can you
This-
just identify
you just-
yourself to the here?
That looks like a chimney.
That was a chimney, but that was eliminated. Final HDC.
This-
approval
that's
does not include
So that's the final.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, then, and it said it's stamped
Oh, yeah.
for plan, so.
That was preliminary, just.
Okay, this showed up in a letter that one of the neighbors sent, so.
Oh, that's what
Oh,
it's
yeah.
attached to. Okay.
That's really-
Well, that wasn't their only.
No,
I don't think it was even their beat. It was, we have that in our packet?
yeah, here.
Yes,
this is
it
looking at
came, no, this is an email today from Leslie.
Another copy.
Yeah,
No, it was from.
No, I didn't get it today though.
No, this was.
It's from July, it was in the packet.
That's it.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait.
Dated July 1st.
Okay. Is there anyone else, is there anyone from the public who would want to speak about this one? So do we want to talk about the neighbors' concerns?
Sure.
Okay, so the one, we all looking at the Catherine,
People.
yeah.
Sorry. This is-
School Street is a quiet side street. The concern that they had, oh, adding the massing
Sunlight.
was about sunlight. Yeah, western sunlight. And one of the, so this one has the photo of, I assume, the massing that exists now.
No, this is the old mess.
No, I mean, no, this
Oh,
one,
that
this
one,
picture, like saying this is the view that they have. So that will be,
One school.
um,
So she's this one, right? This is,
and so this now will be like that.
Yeah.
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 So,
exactly.
I guess I still have the question that Lisa asked. Why is there a change in height? I mean, it's de minimis, it's 3 or 4 inches, but was this just a new type of calculation? Or does the addition affect that because it gets further down the slope? So you could arguably put more dirt in there to,
Doesn't look like the addition goes further down the slope.
I
If
know,
you
it
look at the
doesn't.
site plan, it looks
Main
like,
ridge is the construct for any elevation height.
so why, Mark, does the height get higher by 4 inches?
The height of the building itself, the main
Well,
ridge.
not the main ridge. I mean, that is why they're
The main
here.
ridge is the control point.
Yeah, that's the only thing that,
I
It's
think what you were
calculated.
saying, Ed, is that the height as taken from the lowest point of the grade puts you 4 inches above the allowable 30, you know how you could have one elevation of your house can be no more than 32 feet tall?
Yeah.
That point, as calculated from where the addition is to the top of the ridge, is actually 32.4. Has nothing to do with the height of the addition. They're going back to the main ridge.
Why is that? But why did it get any more than what's there now?
I don't think it's more than what's there now.
Then what do you? why-
no, nothing's more than what's there now in terms of the ridge
Yeah.
that you're
Not
measuring.
the main ridge.
It's,
but
it's,
I'm
it's a
talking-
question of the point from which you're measuring, because you're measuring farther down the slope
Yeah,
because
yeah,
of
it's a
the
slope issue.
footprint of the addition.
Right, but the addition isn't going any further north.
Right,
No.
It doesn't look like the addition is.
Wait, it is going further north.
It's a little.
Yeah,
further
Rob.
north,
It
Yeah.
is?
But not by much.
Oh, it's hard to tell on this. plan.
Excuse me,
Do you have bigger plans that we could look at?
Yeah.
It's-
Just because it is really hard to see on these tiny little pictures.
Oh, I see. The
As far
orange
as I
line is
understand,
just,
the new
outs-
addition
Goes 8 inches. Right.
just,
Further out.
just beyond the
It's
blue.
ward that's off the end of the building on
which
the north
goes
side.
exactly like you're saying,
Then
it's
you go
further down the
wider.
slope, which changes the calculation.
Right. By 2 inches. or
Because you're
something,
measuring from 4 feet away.
further down.
Yeah,
further
8
down,
inches.
Okay, so, I mean, we're talking about whatever number they're saying, 2 to 3 inches, okay, 4 inches.
And you're, again, you're coming out 8 inches, so this 8-inch.
It's making a
extension is
difference.
probably-
It's making the technicality, it's making the difference. Okay. So we can either get.
Or to pull the addition in 8 inches. What? Well, it's just the length of that gable.
What? Exactly.
I asked that question earlier, I forgot it was not.
Well, the red line is, this is the existing and the red is the.
Mhm.
So we can pull that into the.
And if you pulled it in the 8 inches,
What would that do to the ridge height? It wouldn't change it,
It would change the point from which you calculate.
which would make it better because you can further.
But I mean, we're still operating, obviously, we're governed by the 5-foot rear yard setback. And we're not going beyond that point.
And
6
you,
feet is the existing right now. Is that what, 6 feet is not the proposed, it's 6 feet is existing to the side yard setback?
Let me see, I've got existing and proposed from Jeff, which should show that. The existing,
Is it this one, Arthur? It doesn't have a dimension there.
that's proposed. The existing shows
It's
6 feet,
yeah.
and the proposed, showing change on that,
5.2.
Yeah. 5.2. So once again, we're respecting
2
the,
inches away from the setback.
we're respecting the 5-foot setback.
I mean, I don't, 2 inches is really tight, and then
I guess I don't see the need to make it any worse than it is.
I agree.
Do you know what I mean?
But how are you making it, as practical matter, how are you making it worse?
It's
Because
just the calculation, I guess,
the
but
calculation,
the calculation is there for a reason.
But the more, but you're saying that the wider it is, the higher the roof is.
No, but that's the.
Isn't the ridge height already exceeding? Isn't the main ridge already exceeding?
Yes.
So
But
what
that's
are we
a
talking about? That's an existing.
Well, I think Ed was asking the question because
The,
Well,
overall
this is the
calculation,
issue,
not
the
overall
informant, so this is
calculation.
what
it's not, the ridge is getting a little
They're all-
higher. It is existing non-conforming, but to Arthur's point, the existing ridge is not conforming at the moment. It becomes non-conforming
It is
No,
non-conforming
just-
now.
just
by
wait.
2 inches, but they're making it 2 inches more non-conforming.
And that's why he's here.
Only on the north.
Right.
Around on
To
the
ask
north
us for
elevation.
relief.
It's actually coming down on the overall calculation. Because when you average the 4 sides on the addition, per Jeff's proposed conditions plan, he's showing that the average
Where
becomes
does that-
30.29 from the 30.33 that it is at the present time. That's all related to the topography. None of this has any relation to anything other than the very small changes in the topography of the lot, in the slope of the lot.
would you be within zoning if you did add to the height?
The way, and as I recall your previous decisions on that point, we would have to add
Twice as much.
twice, yeah, exactly. We'd have to have twice, because you have to go
200%.
from the 1988 dividing to a point which would be the average between the 1988, that being when that provision came into the bylaw, grade to the finished grade. So as Mark says, that's, you
Is-
would have to add twice as much fill as would otherwise cure the issue.
You'd have to add 8 inches of fill to be at
What
33.
earthly purpose does adding that fill?
I'm sorry, I think everyone, you always have a problem with that in other contexts, right?
I have a problem with a
When I
lot
say
of
what
things.
earthly, I mean earth. Yeah, yes. It accomplishes
It's
nothing.
not personal.
I spoke with Jeff this morning about this, and he said we need to raise it 6 inches.
Well, 0.33 times 2, right?
And then you would meet
Right.
zoning and wouldn't have to be here.
Yes. And
Why
again.
wouldn't you have done that? I mean, why come here?
What's the point of doing it? I mean, what is the point? What earthly, I mean, no view that any neighbor has, no aspect of the site that any neighbor would have would be in any way improved or changed
Well, there was this
by
one.
adding that fill.
Well, there was this. It has, but that has nothing to do with it. The HGC approved the ridge that height.
Yeah.
I just
I
don't,
don't disagree with you necessarily, Arthur, but I would much prefer to just not have to come to the ZBA.
Yeah, but I wouldn't let that out there. I wouldn't like
Well,
Arthur's got a
people are
point.
just adding fill.
No, I'm not saying it's right either, but you're within your rights to do it.
We're within our rights to do it, no question
I-
about that. But again,
So the calculation, when Jeff does his height calculation at the end, would meet.
it would be 30.29 feet,
Right.
or else you'd be back here.
I mean, I think I would have
I-
chosen that option instead of coming before
Yeah.
us, but,
I just have a little concern that you're getting too close to the setback, but that's your own risk, being 2 inches away.
Their business.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's their business though.
But
until
don't
they
come back.
And
So
then
just to
that's
be
like,
clear,
I don't
they-
wanna
they
see
could
this.
Jeff is obviously
They could do
going
that.
to accept the.
No,
I
it's-
know,
the pins
but
for
there are
the-
mistakes and
Well,
foundations
said
are out
you
of
can't
square
alter the
and
contour of property.
it's tight. I would pull that in 4 inches and have 6
Monomoy,
inches.
yeah.
well, it's a good question.
I just don't.
I
We
agree
heard
with
that
you.
before.
I
So-
agree with you, but it's a 5-foot setback.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't know. I mean,
There's
four
just
I
more-
wouldn't go to
access
5
goes
feet
down, which
myself.
is impacting
It's too
how far
dangerous.
the addition goes up.
Partly because I'm a member of this board. But if the applicant desires to go to 5 feet, he's entitled to it.
he is,
Exactly right.
So
just, yeah, that's right.
Are there,
Hopefully they don't have
is
to
it
come
your
back.
position that you could add? that You could add, now I'm not saying you are or want to. Yeah, legally.
Yes.
And how does that, I know in the past, in under different contexts, that's why I brought that up. You can't just add fill to a contour to a piece of land that you're building on, for
A curve.
instance, and then,
Well,
Indefinitely is what I
not,
think Jim's saying.
and how does
the
that,
point is
This is a little different.
that,
I understand, I just don't want
and the
that.
way that it's been worked out is, yes, you can add it, but you don't get the benefit of all that you add. You only get the benefit of half of it. Because you revert to the term, the pre-existing grade as being the grade in 1988.
Right, okay,
Rob's
okay.
been working on this property since 1988,
I-
so he can testify to that. That's the same grade as it is now. So if you need to get, let's say, 3 inches of additional grade in order to solve the problem, you have to actually add 6 because of the way that it's going to be calculated as being the median between the 1988 and finished grade.
Okay, and I understand that for this specific context, but Ed always brings up a good point, and I agree with it. If you were to build a monomoy starting from scratch, the contour is the contour, you can't come in there, fill it in and get the benefit of half of that.
Happens all the
So-
time.
Well, it's not, I don't think that's the right way to raise a house up.
No, that's the whole reason the bylaw got started wasn't there one house off of Cliff Road that got like really built up?
Yeah.
They raised their grade by 4 or 5 inches and then took their 30 feet from there and,
Yeah.
4 or 5
That's-
feet.
yeah,
And I don't wanna
exactly.
Open up the floodgates down the road. separately,
Yeah.
that's all. I understand this situation.
But I think that
This
Frank,
is different.
the most appropriate way to resolve it is to do grant relief, not necessitating the get into the whole fill issue, which again, putting the fill in this location, I don't think it's gonna hurt anybody. to do it. I don't see how it benefits anybody.
I just wish we wouldn't have to grant more height.
If you're granting height, absolute height, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, I just
But
wanted
it's
to make
not
sure.
something you're
it's-
just gonna see, right?
Right, no, I just think, I know this is a very specific condition, but I think that's your concern. It's just,
Well, I don't think it's something that no one's gonna see. I mean, this neighbor sent us a picture of the view out of their window of that back part.
but that's not changing. See, because this is the absolute height is this. So whether this goes to there or stays down.
Yeah, but their view still changes.
Yeah, but that becomes more of an HGC issue than a building height issue.
Yeah,
But I do think, having under special permit for increasing the allowable height doesn't seem necessarily kosher. I could see maintaining the height under special permit, but
Well-
you're increasing the nonconformity, even though I know it's just because of a stupid calculation. It is still increasing the nonconformity.
It does feel.
We're
almost this is
increasing,
an
and we're
insane-
actually reducing the nonconformity of the overall.
Yeah, it says non-compliant over 32 feet, 0.2 foot increase, non-compliant over 0.04 decrease.
Yeah.
So you're increasing 0.16. So it just,
Increasing 0.2 on one side and decreasing 0.04 overall. I mean, among other things, you know, this is the issue.
This is where we live.
This is. Hey, none of us.
I just want to make sure that the decision is written that this is a very specific condition and not to be applied to anybody to allow them to change their ridge height
Well,
by
I think
2 inches, by
then-
4 inches, by a
I-
foot.
I think then when the decision should include all of this minutia de minimis math to really link it to this, if it gets passed, that this is a very specific.
Right. Because what did you normally have to, Leslie, do this under a variance?
If it was new construction over the 30 feet, yeah, it would require a variance.
But where you're dealing with existing non-conformities.
Right.
You can make it
You're
taller,
not creating a new non-conformity.
right? Well, yeah,
You're already existing non-conformity.
I know.
without
But-
a
but-
special permit.
right, but by the math, it's getting taller.
But not getting taller away, so. as it-
Yep.
so.
All right, does anyone on the board have any other questions or comments on this?
Do you want to go to the audience again?
Yeah, sure. I was just gonna do that after this. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to add anything at this point? Um, Since we have exhaustive conversation on this, is there anyone, would the board member like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. for it.
Second.
Okay, so Ed's made the motion, Michael has seconded.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
I think in Mr. Toole's motion, you meant to mention something about the time of the year the work can be done.
I did. And I will.
Thank you.
It can be done. The usual dates in town.
Memorial to Labor Day? Are those the exterior work
Exclusion.
exclusion days,
So that would be the exclusion of any exterior work.
including landscaping? Well, landscape
Construction.
construction.
Right.
Well,
Did
that's,
we- did-
yeah.
Sorry, I know, I feel like we had this conversation. Is Memorial Day really where we are now, or did we, I feel like we pushed it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we
I
did.
feel like it was like May 15th to September 15th.
Pushed it out.
But if we
Oh,
can
yeah.
just whatever
Because
this.
Memorial Day comes and then 3 weeks, there's nothing going on.
Oh, so you're saying we made it
Yeah.
later?
I
Pushed it the
disagree
other
with
way.
you
Oh,
this
no,
year.
I think we pushed it.
Well,
I
this
think
year
we
is an
made it
anomaly,
later,
though.
but Whatever the standard dates are, we've been using.
I think they were, yeah.
I'm not sure what your dates are. I'll have to check into that, but I know the planning board, who also limits construction, a couple of years ago, pushed their date out until later in June, like June 15th, I think.
I thought we went the other way, but I could be misremembering.
No, I think you're right. And then we went back when June was quiet and sleepy again, but
Right.
it is no longer
Mhm.
that way. It certainly wasn't this year.
Maybe we just leave it at Memorial Day.
It's fine with me. You know me.
Go with the flow.
You get a week.
So Memorial Day.
I mean, if we
to
want to put dates on it right now, that everybody agrees to, that seems like a good compromise.
Memorial Day to
Labor Day. Oh, I think you have
You-
somebody
you
who wants
were-
to speak.
Oh, you just have to identify yourself.
There you
Just so
go.
she can hear it for the minutes. Still, you still have to.
You have to go to the
identify yourself.
microphone.
I'm sorry.
Susie Kendall from the Barnaclin. I was just gonna say that from Daffodil Weekend, Wine Festival Weekend, Film Festival Weekend, all these different weekends in May, it's pretty busy from May 15th till October, Columbus Day. You know, it doesn't have to be that long, but we're busy. Like when you said, after Memorial Day, it's slow for 3 weeks. It's not.
Yeah, I think those days are over.
Mhm.
But we can change our standard date. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
For
been
this partic- yeah.
standard, but we can change it based on, I mean,
Maybe because of the end.
or just, yeah, I think,
Well, just because times have changed.
yeah, I would do May 15th to September 15th.
It's fine with me.
In this particular application?
I think in this
Or we-
particular application and going forward in the ROH district. Yeah,
So I
or
would go
ROH,
so
SOH.
far as to say October 1st. October 2nd.
You say that like you're a retired builder.
Not retired, just on the shelf. No, I just think,
I think that's a little much myself.
I think it goes too far. You mean my proposal or?
Well,
October?
The October 1st definitely, and probably May 15th. I would prefer to leave it at Memorial Day. But
Maybe they can be just cooperation, considering on the weekends is the only time that you have those huge crowds.
I think we could say no weekends.
I don't think it's true.
I think this year is an anomaly. People aren't going to other places. People are still working from home. There's many more people here this year than hopefully there will be next year.
All right, so why don't we say we could do the Memorial Day to Labor Day with restrictions on the weekends.
Fair enough.
Yeah, right,
Uh, After the 15th of May?
right, is that what you were saying?
Yeah,
No weekends.
no weekends.
Yes.
It's only 2 weeks.
It's
But
only
you can
2
work
weeks.
during the week until Memorial.
It would be wine festival and I guess that's the only festival, right? Film is in June, so you'd be okay for that.
We could try to reduce the festivals.
Do we have an authority as the zoning board of appeals?
I think so.
Okay, so-
Also,
All right.
I just want to, can we put a placeholder for next year's technical amendments? Is this something that somehow change or work this into a calculation of this situation?
Oh, the height?
Yeah.
We can certainly look into it. I will tell you that I have looked into changing the calculation for structure height before. I think 2 years ago, I did a lot of investigating, talked to a lot of surveyors and engineers, and other towns have the same exact issue that we have and the same somewhat confusing type of definition that we have. So, I mean, certainly something that we can continue to think about. And just while I have the microphone, can we go back to exactly what this construction moratorium is on this
I
application?
think we landed at right now, May 15th to Labor Day. I mean, May 15th to Memorial Day, no weekends. Labor Day, Memorial Day to Labor Day, no construction at all.
I think that's right.
And then after Labor Day, back to regular?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I think September 15th, but
All right, that's what I thought too, but,
that's okay, whatever you want.
I think so.
Okay.
okay, so then Labor Day to September 15th, no weekends. And then.
Okay.
Back to regular.
You like that?
Okay, so the
Let's move on.
motion, so Ed made the motion. to
Michael
grant-
seconded it,
Yeah,
right?
grant the relief as requested with the construction moratorium as noted.
And hopefully with specific language in the decision about the uniqueness of this piece of property to allow the increase in height, the technical increase.
Okay, so voting, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Why don't we do, Mark, do you want to vote on this one?
Sure.
Okay, so Mark to Michael. Okay, so all those in favor?
Hi.
I,
You're good.
passes.
You're good.
I'm listening and responding if I need to. I also couldn't hear everything. Was it a unanimous vote?
It was.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Gordon Russell, Three School Street, thank you. Can I ask a clarifying question? I heard no construction. Did you mean no exterior construction?
Yeah, that's the way it's always been
All
written.
right, just wanted to check.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And board members, the noise bylaw was changed at the annual town meeting, and it does further restrict construction and landscape noise in the old historic districts as defined by the HDC. So you all may want to take a look at that. I'll send it to you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
What are those dates?
I wrote it, I should know, but I think it's July 1st, maybe through September 15th. And the time of day is earlier. It's, I think it's 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Construction's allowed, but anyway,
So
I'll send that to you
you
all.
shorten the day, because it used to be like 7 to 10 or
Yeah.
something. That include leaf blowers?
They outlawed leaf blowers, right?
Yeah. I think so. Or gas ones,
leaf
Yeah,
blowers in
gas.
general, but gas.
gas leaf blowers. Yeah.
It's fine with me.
Doesn't seem to be being enforced.
Doesn't take effect till the fall. I think.
Okay, so our next order of business is application. Our next order of business is application 14-21. Shauna Green, 49 Fairgrounds Road, Sarah Algers presenting.
Yes, Sarah Alger for the applicant. Unfortunately, Shauna didn't realize that this had to be in person, so she otherwise would be here. We are changing our request slightly from what we submitted due to a variety of factors, not the least of which is the overwhelming neighborhood support for this proposal. We are just asking, and I'm not even really sure that I need to be here, but I think I do. My usual stance. We're just asking to be able to continue the outdoor use to the beginning of October. Because when we came back in the spring and asked for this, I think you said, although it's a little unclear, October or whenever the restrictions were lifted. And then, like 5 days later, all the restrictions were lifted. But unfortunately, everything had been contracted for and set up, and all the classes and the teachers, everything is set up to be outside. And if she has to close the deck at the end of August, then she's going to have to break her contracts and change her business plan, and it's going to be horrible. So she's going to dismantle the deck and get rid of it, I guess, at the end of this season, but she'd like the ability to continue to use it until
So it'd be for an extra month. What was the original shutdown date?
it's near the end of August is when everything winds down. So it's really just from the end, whenever that is in August,
Mhm.
to say Columbus Day.
Madam
Oh,
Chair.
to Columbus, not early. I'm just trying to get firm dates. You wanted.
I mean, Columbus Day is early October, so, isn't it?
Well, it's not,
Yeah.
it's mid, it's like the 10th. I don't know what the date is officially.
I don't know. To me, it seems like early October, but whatever it is, it's
Columbus Day.
normally like the 9th, the 10th.
The application says permanent use.
No. I
Yes,
think
it
you're
did.
changing it.
Oh,
The
okay.
application said permanent, and we have abandoned hope.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that part.
I think Columbus Day is the 11th this year.
Okay. So the 11th of October.
So I wasn't here for the decisions. I don't know what there wasn't. Huh?
I was not here.
So there wasn't any, like I know when we just did one recently, we talked about outdoor music and,
That was this one.
no,
No,
well,
no, that
it was a
Burlington
different
Wise and
one.
Tanner.
Oh,
So I
okay.
just looking at the concerns of the neighbors, a lot of it was that the music seems to be a lot louder. There might be some more like, say,
Vigorous.
aggressive classes than say like more like a traditional, like
yoga.
Meditation. class.
Vinyasa class or something that there's some, I don't know, the references were like water and fire or something like that, but the description seemed to have a louder use than just what might have been anticipated. Is there, and again, I don't have a copy of that.
It's in that letter that came from Leslie.
Yeah, but I was, Leslie, sorry, I should have, do
Oh,
you,
here it is.
Um,
I happen to.
fire and
remember
water
it, yeah.
shift, burn of intense physical activity, rhythm-based, amplify the energy, these kind of things. But the neighbors seem to all consistently say it's a lot louder than it was last summer. There's a lot more use. There's a lot more people. And I drove by and I saw the signs for overflow parking. And
Signs on, with the overflow parking, not on that property.
I don't think so. I think it's
No.
over at the school, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's arranged to have park so that it, because she can't have parking on the street.
But isn't part of her original decision that,
She can only have so many people there.
yeah, like her, not even this decision, but I remember when she came.
Right. She's limited to the number of people, but I think more people are driving for some reason.
But
They're
isn't
not.
she limited to the number of parking spaces that she has by the parking? Like, that's why we put,
No, I mean, she's limited, the parking spaces are limited to the space she has.
yeah,
But didn't that meet the requirement that didn't meet the requirement for the number of students?
like, did we grant parking waivers? I just don't have the previous.
No, but
Yeah,
you
I
could
think so.
walk
Do you have that, Leslie?
Right, yeah, like, I
No,
get that
I'm-
more people, I guess that's my point. I obviously more people are driving because she now needs overflow parking, which I think she's done in the past, but
She has done in the
It's-
past, and she always had that like parking person that was out there
I don't know.
to make sure that people weren't parking where they weren't supposed to be.
Yeah, so it just seems like the use has intensified maybe more than, like, I think the purpose was, and the intent was to allow her to continue to do the business she was doing, given the
Right.
restrictions for COVID. I
Right.
get that the restrictions are gone now. We've said she could do this, she contracted and this and that, but it seems from the outside and reading the neighbors' accounts that it's gone beyond maintaining what was
Yeah, I don't
there.
think that's been the intention. So if we need to bring that back in, we can.
I think probably.
I mean,
to-
there's a class size limitation that we have to live by. That's definitely in the permit
Mhm.
for sure.
I think it was probably her intention to turn on the music to a high intensity workout.
Well, Shauna's not really running it, right?
No.
It was on social media and this wasn't in the application, but
Right,
that
no,
she
it's not her,
contracted
it's not
out.
her personally, it's,
Right, so she's contracted out and then there's like other stuff that's wonderful and great, but might be better off if it was like happening at the field at Bartlett Farm, not somewhere where like the houses are
right,
right there. And,
Right.
Or inside.
personally, I have taken classes there in the past where, if the windows are open, like you can hear the neighbors' kids playing and, in years past, and like, it's fine and wonderful, you're in a neighborhood, but I just don't know. And I was trying to put myself in the place of the neighbors, and some of the neighbors said, to be respectful, they've rescheduled their lawns getting mowed, or like, I can imagine if I was living there, my kids want to play in the slip and slide, but there's like people doing yoga, like that's, you don't want to, I don't know. I just feel like the neighbors, it seems like it's exceeded what the intention was to me, just from the neighbors and the signs of overflow parking. But I don't know, did we issue conditions in
same
the,
conditions that have always been on the permit.
So I was part of the decision, and, you're really just asking for an extension of what we granted, and we did do it before the end of COVID restrictions, but I view this as the same thing. I think we kind of analyze this, saying other businesses have been allowed to do this. It's unprecedented time,
Mhm.
and they're allowed to continue doing this, even though the restrictions are.
The outdoor dining, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think. So I know this might be a little stressful to the neighbors, but I don't have a problem extending it, like she said, it's part of the business plan to pull the rug out on her.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not,
Jim
I'm not
was-
suggesting we pull the rug out. I'm suggesting if it's allowed to continue, it's really done in the spirit of maintaining the business that was there before and not
That's fine.
these, what seem to be newer classes that are more.
Higher intensity, more volume.
More, yeah, more
But
volume and,
I'm not sure the additional people, I mean, that's a complaint that might need to be made with the zoning officer, but we're not really,
Mhm.
I mean, you don't know if there are more people. but,
Right.
If that's the case, then it needs to go. there.
Right.
Well, I didn't sit on this, obviously, but my I was keeping up on what was going on, and I would have thought, unless it was specific, and you need to tell me, was it specific that you could have sort of fire and ice
Mm-mm.
and?
No,
We didn't talk about
we
the
didn't
type of
go into-
classes
I
at
mean,
all.
We talked in terms of gongs and things like
Yeah,
that.
well,
Yeah,
that's
and
what I'm
meditation music.
And I mentioned that, and again, now I think the police chief would say, like, everybody's view of noise violations is different, and I understand that a gong or fire and ice is, it's individual as to what bothers you. So I just think it's a very unique period we're in now, and, I think in that context, I would be more for putting the hammer down, but maybe they're willing to accommodate the neighbors and with whatever this addition is.
Yeah, I don't think that decision at all addressed what kind of classes there were, and unfortunately, we probably made assumptions. It was yoga,
Yeah, I thought you.
Right.
but, and I don't know what's happening out
What
there.
is
so
fire and ice?
I have no idea. It's just mentioned in this. Well, maybe we should go to the public.
yeah, we can
The
go,
public
yeah, the
who
public.
wrote
has
these
asked
Let's go to
letters.
the public.
So, I see the couple hands up, so you guys can just identify yourself, for the recording.
Yes, good afternoon. Michael Horton, 6 Weatherly Place. I'm the author of the email that you referred to. I was here to speak, to oppose what was proposed, which was the permanent deck
Mhm.
going forward. So I'm thrilled to hear that that is off the table and it will be dismantled at some point later this year. We were thrilled to support our neighbor last year during COVID when the indoor capacities were greatly reduced. And we tolerated a deck last summer. And you describe it. I'm sorry if it's my kids who are ruining your yoga class.
Oh, no, I wasn't
But-
saying it was bad. I'm just saying like, that's part of.
But
it was
I
okay.
appreciate you're spot on as you put it yourself in reverse role. The distance from my bedroom to the deck is less than where we are right now. So everything you can hear, I can hear in reverse. And the classes run from 6 a.m. till dusk. And you can look that up on the website. You can get a description of fire and water, and you can get a description of shift. It is a far cry from yoga and gongs and resin bowls from last summer. I would love to support the continuation of the deck this summer as you've approved until whatever date that is. I am here today to just add that comment that you already referred to, that the signs of the overflow parking is evidence of not only that this deck was a supplemental solution, but in essence, it is an expansion. There are potentially classes inside and outside, which is why vehicles are going down Fairgrounds Road to Rugged Road to Lighthouse School, and people are crossing the street, and people are not being able to get in on a very busy Fairgrounds Road. Right now is actually the bigger problem. I don't worry so much about after Labor Day with the volume into October. The only way my wife and I can tolerate it for the summer is that we run our air conditioner to drown out the noises. Yes, I do feel guilty mowing the lawn. So I talk to the instructor when you have a class, when you don't have a class, and I mow it between 3:30 and 4 o'clock as quickly as I can. And I come home from work early to do that because later in the day, there's still quieter classes at night. I'm not sure whether extending it is the right move because of the safety, because it's a little bit opposite, because in the fall, the problem might work itself out. It might be less of a problem in the fall with the expansion than it is right now. So I can tolerate the summer. I'm thrilled that it will not be extended will be dismantled. But I would love to hear other neighbors speak to that. My one idea and proposal would be that the amplified music, those classes just go indoors. We'd be fine with the deck if it was yoga the way it was last summer, but it is amplified aerobics classes. The first one I think is 8 a.m. That's a little early. I heard you talking about construction. These classes begin at 6 a.m. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I don't know. Neighbor.
Bob Bates, 11 Brickell Lane. I butt directly up to the decks, similar to. The problem being is all the COVID restrictions were lifted 14 days after you had your decision. It's technically August 14th or 15th is when they would have to cease operations. Right now, I don't feel comfortable in my own yard doing yard work because we might disturb them. I've come to the decision that I will no longer not mow, not grind trees because I'm clearing brush and stuff. I'm going to do what I need to do to live. But the problem being is I walked out of my house at 7 o'clock one morning and I could hear the music. Sunday morning, I walked out at 8 o'clock. We were getting ready to go to the dump and there's the music. They're not even abiding by the town's bylaws for noise. I can't mow my lawn on a Sunday before 10 a.m., but we've got music playing in the neighborhood. The disrespect that I've also seen from some of the people that are there when I'm working in my yard, I've heard discussions of the neighbors don't like the classes. And I've had people look, literally like glaring at me while I'm working in my yard. This is, go back one step, their original allowance to use this property required that no noise go beyond the perimeter of the property. That's exactly what was worded. It's like somebody made a comment last time that, wow, that's pretty restrictive. Right now, we have no peace in the neighborhood. I walk out my front door and I hear voices all the time, music all the time. That's never happened before. There was a comment previously at the last meeting about the fire radio that was in my garage. I've since retired. That's turned off. That's not a problem anymore. But all day, we hear voices, we hear music. The COVID restrictions, August 14th or 15th, technically she has to go inside with that, by those bylaws, by what the building commissioner said. She had until the end of the thing. Extending it extends the impact on the neighborhood. It's not having a positive impact on the neighborhood at this point. Thank you.
Chair Leslie.
All right, so I'm not able to pull up the decision, but I did pull up your minutes from May. And your motion was to approve the request until such time as COVID restrictions require the owner to move the operations inside, or October 15th, whichever is earlier. So you did approve that date. The emergency order was lifted, but there was an outside date for people to finish up what they were doing, which is the August 14th, 15th date. And also in your minutes is a reference to the special permit from 2000, which does have a condition about noise outside. Just lost it. But basically it was noise isn't supposed to project beyond the lot lines.
That's right.
Does anyone else in the audience have anything to add at this point? Okay. Do we want to talk about October 1st versus, or was it October 1st or October 15th? I'm sorry.
Whichever first. It
Sorry,
was-
August, right, so whatever, I was just trying to clarify what the date was that we had said. We had said,
You had said October 15th or when the restrictions are lifted, whichever is earlier,
Which is August.
which is
So-
14th, I think. Yeah, of
yeah,
August.
so does anyone have any comment on whether, I mean, the decision was what it was, and yes, the restrictions were lifted shortly thereafter, but there is this August 14th, 15th, whatever, 14th day out there. Does anyone feel strongly about it remaining till October 15th?
I feel that there was an opportunity to make it work because of COVID. And there was an overstepping of the bounds by, I mean, I don't live in the area, but I'm taking everybody at their word. And when I hear what the classes were, you know, I don't think they were good neighbors. The class.
Mhm.
So I'm more inclined to say the 15th or 14th of August. First,
Maintain. the date.
maintain the date.
Of what we said originally,
Yes.
So that would be the August 14th, 15th, 14th.
I mean,
And to add on to that, just the special permit of 2000 with the condition about the noise outside, I mean, we just granted one for outside where we said no noise outside, like they're not, we didn't even allow them to play any noise or have any kind of speaker, even for the instructor for their outside classes. And that's in an area that's, it's residential and commercial, but you know, there's definitely more space or distance
So-
to a residential unit. So
We didn't allow amplified music at all at Lisa's.
no,
And,
there's,
and the application in May, we said the same thing.
Right.
Apparently it didn't make it into the minutes, but we had the same discussion.
yeah, I mean, unless that condition was removed, then that stands. So,
Well, I think the difference is that the one you referred to was after the COVID restrictions were lifted.
And it was
We were
permanent
looking at-
too. Yeah.
It was.
I think this one, Lisa's was permanent.
I think,
It's a turf area.
yeah. So,
So I think if they came with this request after the COVID restrictions were lifted. we would- Because they could have classes.
I also like the neighbor's suggestion about, you know, obviously she can still have these more energetic, whatever classes, they just have to be inside.
Right,
Yeah,
I mean, to be a better neighbor.
right. I think if we could, I mean, we're not supposed to have music project beyond the boundary lines. It isn't no noise beyond the boundary lines. I mean, that's ridiculous. You couldn't close a car door in that case.
I think we're referring to music.
Yeah, music. I mean, if you want to say eliminate all music, I think we could do that.
But I think one of the concerns, I think that I read, like one of the classes, seems like there's vocalizing by the attendees. That's,
If you want to get rid of that too, we could get rid of that. I don't know about that class, that particular class.
I think it said in one of the descriptions, but
I mean, I think the intention when you were here in May was, I think we thought it was a continuation of a more serene classes.
I-
So,
Yeah, I think that's what I thought too. to
so
be
I think,
honest.
you know, I agree with Jim, though. I feel like she has, well, so there's a couple issues. It sounds like there's a potential that she might be increasing her use if there's parking issues. And that's,
I don't think that's happening. She's not doing inside and outside at the same time.
then why couldn't these classes just be moved inside
if
Because
she's
she's,
doing inside, why
after
not,
August
like, yeah,
15th?
why not have them just go inside and be a better neighbor?
I mean, she could try that, but unfortunately, she's contracted to have outside classes.
But only as long as the COVID restrictions,
Right, but people are, you know how people are,
with who? Who are the people though?
the clients.
Well, but they.
So they go
they don't
inside,
get to Work out.
Yeah, a
They
lot
don't
of them
go.
don't want to go inside, is part of the
but
problem.
that's their choice. I mean,
That's.
that's.
Well,
But,
I mean,
but it
so if you're
affects
not
her
gonna,
finances.
if you're not willing
Except
to,
that she wasn't having classes like that
I-
before.
And I'm gonna go back and the neighbors bring up some good arguments, but again, I look at it in the context of the restaurant. You said the same thing in the restaurant. So we're
Yeah.
gonna do that. Not always full up. They would have to say,
Ventuno.
"Our Customers expect this now.
They
I
don't
just
have an
wanna try to help the
application.
business.
But
Yeah,
what I'm saying is, I
exactly.
feel like these are, from what everyone's saying,
But
even
we're
the
breaking the
applicant,
rules.
these are normal, these are new these are new type of class that wasn't introduced, like, it's,
Yeah,
it's,
and I
it's
think
as
they're
if,
willing-
I think we're,
I think they're willing to move those inside. But
Well, why haven't they? They know that they're making the neighbors angry.
Well, we actually, I didn't know that until today. So,
Well, I knew it when I read the packet. I mean,
Right,
assuming.
I did not
I'm
read the
believing
packet until, I
neighbors,
did
and
not
don't know
read the
why they
packet
would be
until
lying
today.
about it.
And I don't think Shauna's been hearing from neighbors either. But maybe she has.
I think one of them said they did reach out to her on the 27th of June to let her know. I don't know which one, but one of them did say something about they had let her know, and I think she responded. Was that you, Mr. Bates?
Think
Yes,
if-
and she said she would deal with it. and nothing's changed.
is there an opportunity to maybe between now and the next meeting to maybe
Sure.
see if they can work it out with the neighbors?
Why don't I try, why don't I at least try that? Otherwise, I should just withdraw this because. Yeah, I should either withdraw it or we should continue it.
Well, if you
You withdraw.
withdraw it August 14th or 15th, you're done.
Well, right, but if you're gonna deny it, I'm done anyway.
well, so why don't we continue it and you
Yeah.
talk to Shauna and see if you
Yeah.
guys can come up with
That's a-
a,
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a better solution.
because I
for
think,
everybody.
you know, clearly the neighbors have some valid
Yeah, absolutely.
concerns that,
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they should mow their lawns whenever they want,
oh,
Amen.
absolutely.
Mhm.
right? I mean,
I would mow my lawn, chop my wood, no matter what's going
I
on
would
next door to
too.
me.
I would too. I don't think that should be done.
Absolutely, yeah. My
Absolutely.
weed whacker, my gas powered weed.
Or a
whacker.
Golly,
Or the private leaf
Luckily, I don't have
blower.
any of those things.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah,
Anyway.
let's just continue it to, when is the next?
Is it August? The 12th. I was gonna say the 8th.
And maybe Shauna can be here as well.
Yeah, that would be good.
So there'll be a chance at that meeting that she'll be out of business in 2 days outside.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, let me just ask something on that, Michael. Could she then appeal our decision and get an extra 30 days, just waiting for that, or some statutory number of days? No?
I don't
If
think
you
so.
She could appeal it, but it wouldn't give her extra time.
She'd have to stop within the
Yeah,
time.
she'd have to stop.
Yeah, because the order that says the 14th or 15th of August trumps, yeah, that trumps whatever we're doing.
Yeah, and it is the 14th. I found an email from the building commissioner about that.
I would simply counsel them, her, to take the classes inside if she wants to provide music. and whatnot.
Right. I don't know
Okay,
what kind of
maybe.
music is happening, so I'll find that out too.
Okay, so looks like we are looking for a motion to continue to the next.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Okay, so Lisa made the motion, Ed seconded. We can vote from Lisa onto Jim. So all those in favor? Aye. Okay, so that passes. So we'll see you in August,
Awesome.
hopefully with some,
Kumbaya.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Leslie, do you want to copy the big set of plans on that one? Yeah. So, our next application is application 15-21 Lemberg Son and Daughter LLC, 1 White Whale Lane. Mr. Lemberg presenting. You have the floor.
All right. As you said, just. Let me, sorry about that. Arthur Reed said he was here, been gone for a year. And just for the record, I was here 27 years ago. I built the laundromat on Old South Road And Ed was here and Mike.
Oh,
For
God.
that's
I
worth.
was not here on the,
Yeah.
I was here, but not on the board of. Appeals.
No, I think Mike was.
Michael was.
Mike, okay, sorry about
Don't
that.
age me with Michael.
Okay.
Did it get
Um,
approved? I can't remember.
Yeah, okay. Represents myself and my family. We put together a duplex at One White Whale. It's new construction. Each side mirrors the other, and it has 3 bedrooms. Each room has 3 bedrooms. And as you know, required to have 1 parking spot per bedroom. We applied for, we submitted an application for permit to be able to create a few rooms in the basement. One was a mechanical room, storage, a bath, and then a room, which is large enough to be a bedroom. So we went through the process at the building department, plus got to Marcus's desk and, rightfully so, he said, no, you have to get relief or figure something out. So we went then to the planning board, and Leslie said that jurisdiction is here rather than the planning board. So we're looking for relief for 1 parking spot for each side. 1 unit now is occupied by a young family, and they want their parents to come and live with them. The other side is rented by the golf club and until Labor Day, and then we're going to rent to another family, presumably. There is a bus stop within 200 feet from the house, the way the crow flies on, I guess, Barlow Road. So there is a provision where you wouldn't need that many cars, in my mind. And then, for whatever it's worth, it's a private subdivision. And there is nothing prescriptive about parking in the street, which we wouldn't want to do for aesthetics and traffic flow. Tori over here has helped me somewhat in this endeavor. I don't think I can present any more than I have. And yeah, of course, I'm not a good guy, but obviously you can build a house or a duplex or whatever and put rooms in afterwards, which I didn't do, trying to be somewhat transparent. That's my
I have a
case.
question?
This side,
Susan?
Yeah.
Is there one, is this a total of 2 additional rooms then and 2 additional?
One,
parking?
yes,
One
one-
per side.
yes,
And do they have window wells?
yes.
So they can definitely become sleeping
I
areas?
mean, it's a room that could be a bedroom or it could be something else.
Is there a bathroom?
Bathroom, yes.
Mhm.
And there's a bathroom.
And separate entrance.
Yeah. I'm a little uncomfortable granting any parking relief.
Me too.
So, me too.
I totally agree.
There's too many cars here, and even though there's a bus stop there, nobody's gonna take the bus. There are two, it's just, I
Well, some
really,
people might take the bus, but there'll still be too many cars.
Yeah.
They either end up on the street or the lawn.
yeah,
Mhm,
yeah, particularly because this doesn't even include any guest parking.
mhm. Is there parking allowed on White Whale Lane?
He said there was. but
There's
they were
nothing
preferring
that
not
says
to
there
do it.
can't be parking on the line, on that lane.
Just out of curiosity, it's not kitchen facilities down in the
No,
basement.
no. That isn't the intention. Now or in the future.
Did you originally apply without those rooms in the basement?
We have a permit that is devoid of anything in the basement. This is a permit separate from the permit to build a duplex.
So there were 2 bedrooms on each side.
Three.
Three,
And there
Needs
was
to be-
parking.
yes.
Then you need a 4th on each side now.
And Ed, you guys you're not selling this one?
Selling it? No. And I'm not sure, maybe Les, I'm sure she can answer this question. I believe you're permitted 6 spots on a lot. I mean, this could maybe reconfigure to get another lot, maybe another spot. But I don't know what the bylaw is with respect to number of parking spots on a lot.
So there's not a limit on the number of spots, but once you reach a certain threshold, you have to increase screening.
Seems like
And
a lot of
I did
parking.
get a late email that I sent to you all that has some pictures of, I don't think it's this particular unit, but it's pictures of the parking situation on the street. Jen Decker sent it in and she's here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Jen Decker and I live at 33 Bartlett Road. My property abuts this subdivision. Last summer was interesting. There was cars parked all over the place and a couple of the neighbors and I went to the building department and asked, like, what if there's a fire back there? Like, how are they going to get around there? The building inspector went and looked and apparently talked to somebody and the cars subsequently moved to Cato Lane and down on Bailey. I have a friend on Bailey. And the person, people would go down there as 2 cars that were parked down there every day. I believe the Oddfellows were getting people parking in their parking lot as well. Personally, if you're going to build a massive duplex in a residential neighborhood and not allow enough parking or have enough parking, that should have been thought through a little bit more before the plans were approved. And I understand that the finishing of the basement wasn't thought through at that point, but I don't know that it was thought through at 74 Cato Lane, which is the first house that was in there. This house has been sold to a family, so there is no parking issue with that one. But I can see that it getting out of control very fast. Number 3, White Whale has already gone in, and that's probably going to end up being the same thing because they put egress windows in and 2 sets of stairs going out. The currently Nantucket Golf Club is, I believe it's Nantucket Golf Club I was told was renting one of the sides, and the neighbors that I've spoken to are not able to be here today, but say that they're picking up trash out of the yard. The noise is out of control all the time. At nighttime, these guys just come home partying. So I can only imagine if you're going to add more basement space that you're just going to stack people in there. And I understand if you want to rent to families in the future, but what's to say that that family doesn't move out next spring and then we just rent the rooms again and stack as many people as we can? Because all of these cars in these photos belong to that one rental unit. And I'll be glad if anybody needs to see.
I'd like to, can I speak to that? Or not?
I have
About the cars.
I have a
Okay.
quick question about it first.
Oh,
These
thank you.
pictures are the other.
So that's of 74 Cato. So when you come into their development, 74 is on the left and one White Whale is on the right. One White Whale is substantially larger than those duplexes, allowing many more people to fit in them. And I think that's a little bit concerning with all the neighbors that they're just going to stack people in there in the bedrooms. If you guys look at your plans, you can see that the square footage is much larger than the first house that shows that many cars. So I think that's a little bit of a concern, is saying that one White Whale is much larger. You're going to fit more people in there than just the 8 cars.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. And
I'm sorry, what?
can I
Yeah,
make a
and you
rebuttal
can-
to that?
Yep.
It's a total presumption to think that people would be stuffed into their house. It's just a presumption. It wouldn't be, but again, I mean, I have to refute that. And secondly, both houses are under construction. The number 1 White Whale was only occupied, I believe. The right side was occupied in June 15th, and the other side 2 weeks before. Any car you see is construction workers working on number 3 or previously on number 1. I mean, are we going to,
As far as those photos are from last summer, just showing 74 Cato. They're not showing construction cars right now. I
well,
promise
it's,
you that.
I'm not,
Those are all people that were staying in 74 Cato.
Okay, well, I think I get that there's a definitely there's an issue with parking and not having availability in White Whale to park if there's parking other places. That's something we can't solve here, but let's focus on the parking spaces for this one. I see, did you want to speak, Mr. Upton?
I would like to, if
Sure.
the board has a few moments where they still need to deliberate, I can wait a few moments.
Right.
respectfully.
I think, yeah, I think you can speak and then
Thanks.
Tori, we can hear from you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My name is Barry Rector. I'm here representing the Nantucket Lodge number 66 of the Independent Order of Odd Fellows. I'm their secretary currently, and thank you for allowing me to listen, for hearing me out for a few minutes worth of time. I get what Mr. Lemberg's saying. Yes, of course, when you're in the middle of doing construction with the project, there are just certain things you can't control. But I want to take a look at it from a perspective of once that is done once the project is done and we're approaching the CO, that's when I think we need to have a discussion now about proactive response, about how to deal with this. So there's a few things. I have to admit, I'm a big fan of always reducing parking where we can. That's great. But the quid pro quo of that is sometimes you also get people now having to search for spaces off of the property. So a few things I'd like the board to consider at this point. Along Cato and Whitewell Lane, I'd like to make sure there is no on-street parking, and that will also include into the right-of-way as well too. Respectfully, I just want to make sure that in terms of any spaces or vehicles that happen to be on the property at this point, that they do not intrude onto the setbacks that are established. Third thing I just want to bring up, although it's not germane to this board, but still of importance, is that in a prior decision to the HDC, we had also asked for a buffer to be set between the two property lines. I just want to make sure that does get reviewed in its final inspection process before the CO is issued, just to make sure everything's copacetic with that. But in terms of the parking, I'd really appreciate you taking a proactive response to taking a serious look at Whitewell Lane, taking a serious look at Cato Lane, and also making sure that the setbacks are respected in the whole equation. If you have any other questions, I'd appreciate it, but thanks for listening to me. I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Victoria Ewing for Mr. Lemberg. I just wanted to point out that even though one Whitewell Lane is more square footage, it's the exact same amount of finished rooms that we're proposing at 74. That the same as 74 Cato Lane. So 74 Cato Lane has, oh, sorry, go ahead.
74 Cato Lane, that's 8 bedrooms?
Yeah, it has a finished rec room in the attic space.
3 bedrooms.
3 bedrooms plus a finished
But you have
attic
2 of
space.
these.
I'm sorry?
You have a duplex on each side of this. So that's a total of 6 bedrooms and 2.
2 rec spaces, correct.
Do the rec spaces have their own bathrooms up
No,
there?
not at all. It's a room
And
off
they-
of a bedroom, like
And they
a,
don't
with
have
a full
exterior
staircase.
access.
They have what?
They don't have like the
Exterior
basement.
access.
No, but the basement does have exterior
Yeah.
access at 74, and that was finished as part of the original build, the original permitting.
Are there bathrooms down there?
There's a bathroom and a bedroom in the basement with
So it's
exterior
So it's
space.
4 bedrooms plus a rec room.
The third floor is not a bedroom.
It's a rec, I'm saying 4 bedroom plus a rec room.
Nope, 3 bedrooms plus the rec
The
room.
So
third
one of the-
bedroom is in the basement.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
With a bathroom.
And how many parking spaces are there?
6.
Okay.
So this has more.
More square footage, but the exact same amount of rooms that we're asking for. The basement could be a bedroom, as we've discussed, with the window well and the exterior
But you're
access.
saying at Cato, you have 6 parking spaces
Correct.
with less bedrooms.
Same bedrooms.
But you
We-
have 2 units here that are,
There's 3 bedrooms and 1 rec space at 74 Cato Lane on each side.
So now you're saying that at.
oh,
whatever
74
this one
Cato
is,
Lane
you're-
is also a duplex.
Yes, they're all all 4 buildings on this subdivision right now are all
Unfortunately,
duplexes.
this area is just too dense.
I agree.
The duplexes should never been allowed here. There's too many bedrooms.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, but that's beside the fact.
And I
guess.
think
also,
Going from that point, I think that there needs to be more parking. There's these pictures, whether it's construction workers or not.
right,
If you're, like you said, one of them was sold to a family, there's just cars everywhere. They're double stacked on the lawn. I mean, and it doesn't, I don't know, this plan doesn't say how wide Whitewell
me
Lane
answer
is,
that.
but saying that parking isn't restricted on Whitewell Lane, it doesn't seem to me, based on the photos where people are parked on the lawn, It doesn't seem that there's room to have parking on the street and still be able to allow a fire truck or anybody else to get by.
I would,
So-
yeah, I would agree. I could, to answer your question, those cars that were parked were a tenant that was a contractor. And he is no longer there and it's been sold to a local family. Mr. Lemberg's intention is to eventually sell these when he does to local families. I know that's not a guarantee. As a compromise, I think we could fit a 7x17 space at one if we could get a waiver for one spot and put in a seventh spot as a 7x17 as far as the site plan is concerned, just for your consideration.
Why didn't you plan on the 8 parking spaces from the beginning?
Well, let me speak this now. Which building are we talking about now?
The one
The one
The
you're
one
asking
right-
relief
one right-
for.
Right. It wasn't at the time, I didn't know if we're gonna finish the basement. And
Well, it
we
just seems like
complied.
you could have,
Well,
you could have looked at the site plan so differently,
and-
knowing
And
you
another,
need more parking.
I just want to think. I think I'll take issue with Mr. Rector about parking. Parking does not have to be within the setback. It can
Yeah.
be in within setbacks, and Leslie will probably confirm that.
I don't disagree with you.
You do or don't?
I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
I disagree with Mr. Rector that you can park in your setback. It's not a structure.
And another thing, again, every new house I've seen has exterior stairwell, window well, excuse me. It doesn't mean you're going to build something there. Correct?
Well, except that you did and you put there's a
I
bathroom
haven't
down
done
there
anything. I applied
and
for a
basement
permit
access.
to create these rooms. And the other side of the coin, maybe I could just, it's not, I don't know if you have jurisdiction here, just apply for rooms. How would you create a room and not be a bedroom?
Not put the window well in.
Well, window well doesn't necessarily mean it's a bedroom.
Sure it does.
Well, that's a great, that's kind of a gray area. I know it meets the definition of
You can
bedroom.
have a family room down there that does not have windows to let you out of to sleep.
Well, that could be a, well.
Well, you could still
I don't-
have the same room, but you could have done it if you even thought it was gonna happen and have the proper number of parking spaces. And now you're asking for relief to bless something that wasn't applied for from the get-go, and I'm uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
So if you can find a way to get the 8 spaces, you wouldn't need to be here.
Yeah, I think unfortunately it's sort of late. It feels like the building could have been cited differently to allow a
Well,
larger
it's-
parking area,
Yeah, so
which
it's-
would have
it's-
worked.
it's-
And now it's sort of plopped in the middle. You don't have any room to do parking any other way. And
it's-
fortunately, I don't think it was great planning.
well, it was,
I just don't, I don't feel comfortable with the piecemeal approach to an application and planning. I understand that things change, but
I
they
think
should
about it.
change to conform. Not, oh, well, now we'll try to get approval, so.
And I think just piggybacking and then Mr. Rector, I'll go to you. I think that knowing that there was the potential for that build out and that build out would require the addition of 2 more parking spaces, you could have cited it differently. And even if you didn't have the extra parking spaces or even do the build out, you could give yourself the flexibility to do it later. So
It'd be nice to have I mean, not that I want to see 8 parking cars, because I agree with Mr. Rector. I hate having such a big parking lot in front of what's supposed to be a house. But, you could have had just extra parking.
Yeah.
Which is
especially-
always
Met
nice.
zoning, I mean, we may not like it personally, the 8 parking spaces, but if it met zoning.
Right, it would have met zoning. And then if you only built out 3 bedrooms, you'd have a guest parking space.
Mhm. Right.
this- this-
I'm just going to go to Mr. Rector first and then we'll.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to respectfully disagree with Ms. Botticelli here. In terms of being able to park in spaces such as in the setbacks and stuff, it is an intrusion on the property, on the people who are on the abutting property at this point. Because where do you stop that at? Is it 6 feet to where the setback is? Is it 1 foot to where the setback is? Is it 0 feet?
I think
Okay,
the way the
so you
bylaws-
need, I think as a board, you need to make that kind of determination about how that begins to affect the abutting neighbor. And I think there is that ability for you to have to consider that as opposed to just arbitrarily waive that thought.
No, but
Okay.
I think the way that the zoning bylaw is written, it is not defined. It's not our responsibility as a board. Parking can happen in the old historic district. I live downtown. My parking space goes to my property line. It was there when I bought the house. I didn't put it in
Right,
that
but
way.
and I appreciate that, but here you go. And that's pre-existing, whereas we're talking about new construction that's
But the
happening.
bylaw doesn't
It's a warrant
say-
article.
That's a warrant
It's not
article
us.
change. It's not
Right,
us.
but I would just respectfully say at this point, before you just start coming out with comments of, well, we don't have to worry about it, I still would respectfully ask you to consider, what does that mean? Okay,
Well,
you
first of all-
said,
first
I'm
of
just,
all,
I don't
think-
want, okay,
I don't
hear
think
me out.
it's-
I don't want to get into a back and forth. I just want you to take that for what it's worth. And as a board, you can make your decisions from there, and I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Thank you. My comment would be, and I don't, this development, I don't know where it was, what the permitting was for it, but it seems like it should have been, there should have been some more thought overall for this entire development in terms of parking and use, but here we are. Mr. Lundberg, did you have something else that you wanted to say?
Yeah, I get the sense that you're not in favor at all. Before you make a decision, quite possibly, maybe this could be reconfigured, but in my own defense too, this lot doesn't lend itself to a normal kind of parking situation. I bought it. I'm not, it's my choice, eyes wide open, but it's with the setbacks, it would be, I know it's not my problem, but maybe we could possibly create a spot. I'm not sure. Maybe Leslie could give me some input now. Care not to?
Well, I guess the input I want to offer is that the bylaw was changed, I think probably around like 2005, 2006, to increase the parking requirement to one space per bedroom in duplexes because of areas that had developed, with a lot of duplexes, with a lot of overcrowding and not enough parking spaces. I mean, the requirement used to be, or even one per unit, and it just wasn't enough. So I think if you don't want to see the cars overflowing out onto the street, then you probably shouldn't grant the permit.
Okay,
You ready?
I'm ready. Yeah. Does someone want to make a motion for this one?
I'll make the motion that we approve the application as requested.
So for voting, is someone want a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. So for voting on this one, I'll go Michael to Mark. Okay, so Michael, you can, oh, right, because we don't have to do that. We can just vote all together. So all those in favor of granting the relief requested, say aye. All those not in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
aye. Mark, did you vote? Okay, so that was a unanimous no.
Yeah. Okay.
Seeing that there's no other business. Oh,
What
well,
is this
this
at the end?
thing.
I don't understand what this is.
So this was, it seems, maybe Leslie can enlighten us, but it seems it was a letter that was for a property that was not before us. Mark, right, Leslie, this letter that came out, went to a bunch of boards, but was not for,
This letter did go to, I think, every town board, and I know the architect, Ethan Griffin, is working on something that probably will come before you, but it hasn't been submitted yet. So, and I've communicated that to the author of the letter that, he'll get a notice when the time comes.
okay, so we will most likely deal with this at the appropriate time when there's an application before us.
Yes.
Okay, so being that there's no other business after that, would someone make a motion to adjourn? Second? Ed seconds. All those in favor, say aye. Aye, okay,
Thank you.
thank you. What?
Oh, so you don't